All right. Good evening and good night, and welcome to the It's Your Perspective Talk Show. It is Thursday, June 30th. My name is David, a.k.a. Kimber, a.k.a. Christian, alongside.
Soup?
Yeah, Soup, we back?
Yes, I.
Just want to say that this is the It's Your Perspective Talk Show every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, weekly 8 p.m. until. We do have a telephone number, 340-201-9005. You can also text us on that number as well. But most importantly, you have to go to our website, streaming live from the vi.com. Go to our website right now, click on the tab that says Watch Us Live, and you'll be able to see the show tonight because we do have some guests in the studio. We also have email, streaming live from the vi@yahoo.com. You can also link you with us as well tonight. But most importantly, we are in the high-tech, low-tech studio, coming to you from an undisclosed location here in St. Croix, Virgin Islands. No radio or TV, internet only. Get your smartphone, your Android, your iOS, tablet, iPad, Mac or Windows PC, and even Linux. Open up your browser, type in streaming live from the vi.com, and you will be able to see the show tonight. All our recorded live shows are on YouTube and Ustream.tv. Just search for our channel. It's Your Perspective Talk Show. We have 2 Facebook pages. Want to give a quick shout out to CHS Class of 1982. That's the year that Soup and I are representing. But most importantly, to all our past guests, we're on Twitter as well. Tweet with us at VI Perspective. And we're moving straight forward on Up Soup. The show's mission is just to inform, entertain, and empower everyone. Want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, Maggie's Party Decor and Supersonic Computer Services. Check our website for contact information. And Soup, you ready?
Yes, my brethren.
Yes, sir. Bless that mic, man.
Greetings to one and all in the name of the Almighty Creator. The greatest secret in life is that reality is nothing more than illusion. The physical world does not exist outside of our own belief system and the filter of our own mind. We are, in fact, subparticles of the Almighty experiencing creation itself. But as subparticles of the Almighty, we also have swayed over these creation. Everything you have experienced in life, every event, occurrence, object, and person is nothing more than a figment of your own thoughts, beliefs, and words. The problem is, most of us are still asleep. The problem is, most of us are still asleep. When you understand this, your entire world shifts and you come to realize the true meaning of life is thus, like a lucid dream, we have total control.
All right. Thank you for that, Soup. Soup's been blessing us since April of 2014 with the It's Your Perspective poem, and also what we would call the It's Your Perspective spoken word, Soup.
Yes.
That's how it goes, you know. But as promised, we do have some special guests in the studio tonight. They are with the St. Croix Landmarks Society. There they are right there. You guys wave to the crowd. You guys are streaming out all over the world right now. How you guys doing tonight?
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening. All right.
Hey, thanks for coming in.
Introduce yourselves, ladies.
Thank you for having us. I'm Sonia Jacobs-Dow, Executive Director of the St. Croix Landmark Society, and it's a pleasure to be with you and your viewing audience this evening.
All right.
My name is Naima Laguerre. I am a communications intern for St. Croix Landmark Society.
Okay, great. So
And the coordinator of Come Home to St. Croix 2016.
just being very modest there.
Okay.
Well, I want to thank you guys for coming out, and you're here tonight because you guys want to talk about this great program, great event coming up in July. It's called Come Home to St. Croix.
Yeah.
So kind of give us
Where did it start?
how it started, and
who
just kind of give
was
us
the brainchild behind it and all that.
Well, this is our sixth year, the 6th year of Come Home to St. Croix. And I guess it really had its roots in discussions over the years about having maybe an estate whim reunion, since the St. Croix Landmark Society operates the Estate Whim Museum. And that discussion probably started maybe 15 years ago. And then in 2010, we started again, and then it evolved, and we started talking about maybe it's St. Croix that needs to have a reunion, not just Estate Whim. And the dream was that in some future time, we might begin to focus on different estates, having reunions and encourage reunions in different estates. So Come Home to St. Croix was first held in 2011. Brainchild, lots of people: Mary Roebuck, Carol Wakefield, Winifred Clark Hardy, Joan Keenan, Jerry Doward, George Tyson, who was director of the St. Croix Landmark Society prior to that, Ricky Marshall. A lot of people were involved that first year, Ronnie Phillips, and they all contributed ideas. The thing was that we wanted a celebration of our culture, our history, and of connections, particularly family connections, but sometimes it's a class that decides to do a reunion.
Right.
Sometimes it's a group that went to college together or that worked together and they want to use this opportunity to get together. And the way we plan Come Home to St. Croix every year is that we plan the activities. All you have to do is get your family or your classmates together, because there's there are a variety of different activities during that week. So if you want to add a church service or want to add a private meal or something, you can. But other than that, we've tried to think of every kind of activity that you would want to have for a reunion and to include that in Come Home to St. Croix.
Well, okay, so all the events would be held at the Whim estate, or is that just sort of, come home and you do everything plus the Whim Great House?
Many of them are at the Estate Whim Museum, but not all of them.
Yeah.
Naima, you want to tell them?
Okay, so most of them, like our evening activities, will be at Estate Whim Museum, with the exception of Saturday night. St. Croix Landmark Society, Island Center for the Performing Arts, Stanley and the 10 Sleepless Nights, and Dr. Eugene Peterson are collaborating to present the Virgin Islands Cultural Expose and Extravaganza, and that will be at Island Center. That one, Dr. Peterson has put on the Cultural Extravaganza in the past. It's done really well. It's been a hit with people, so we're hoping that to see a high turnout once again. Saturday, that will be July 23rd, starts at 6:30 p.m. with the Rising Stars Steel Pan Band. They'll play for about an hour, and then the show will continue. We'll have Sadell Peterson, Tony Romano, Stanley and the 10 Sleepless Nights. We'll have Mokojumbis, Kevin Williams Jr., the steel pan prodigy.
Okay.
And if I'm missing someone,
I think there are a couple other people.
There are a couple other people. We might have a quadrille group performing that day. But yeah, it's a huge, loud, fun thing. So come out on Saturday. You can pre-purchase tickets, or you can purchase at the gate. Pre-purchasing tickets is encouraged. Estate Whim Museum is an outlet. Urban Threads is an outlet. Cafe de la Creme, which is the ice cream store in Sunny Isles. Armstrong's Homemade Ice Cream, and Echo Valley Imports and Tire Service. But yeah, most things will be hosted at Estate Whim Museum. Most evening activities, if we're doing a Places That Matter, obviously it'll be places on St. Croix. The one we're doing in Christiansted, that will be we'll walk from the wharf to the old customs house.
Okay.
So yeah, I think those are the only two things that are really going to be off of our grounds.
Okay.
So far, but yeah, most of them, you're correct, most of them will be at Estate Whim Museum.
Okay, so do you have families already kind of lined up to come?
Yes, they're the Thompson family, the descendants of John Charles Thompson.
Okay.
And they call their family the Callaloo Connection. They are having a reunion. In fact, I think they started today. They're having a reunion, and they'll have people that'll be here throughout. Some of them will be here for Come Home to St. Croix.
Right.
But one of their important contributions to Come Home to St. Croix 2016 is that they've created a family exhibit, which will be one of the exhibits that will be featured at Come Home to St. Croix. As I said, it's the descendants of John Charles Thompson, and so they have panels for each of the siblings. For each of his children.
Okay.
So it's going to be really interesting. They've also added some features. There's going to be someone there when the exhibit is open to scan photos, scan documents, take pictures of people, take information. So it's an interactive exhibit where you can be adding information to the exhibit. So the Thompsons are the main family that's having a reunion this year. But there are other smaller groups that are kind of testing out things. People always find a way of pulling their family together to go to an activity during Come Home to St. Croix. And we have other people. Annette Scott is also putting together a panel. There are other people who are contributing family histories. And we're going to have these family histories up for at least a year so that they become part of our centennial celebration or commemoration. We've asked people to think about how their family is going to commemorate the last 100 years. What were their contributions to St. Croix, to the world? and to begin to put together exhibits on that. In preparation, we did some workshops about how to do your family history. We've done that always at least once a year, but this year we also did an exhibit planning workshop, how to design an exhibit, how to create one, so that we raise the skill levels always, all of our skill levels always. So that exhibit is going to be the major one. Well, actually not. It's one of two. The other exhibit that we're very excited about as well is the redesign or rethinking of our transatlantic slave trade exhibit, which has been up in the slave quarters for a number of years, and we've turned it over to some young people. We have a group of junior preservationists, and these are teenagers that participate with us year-round, looking at the careers that intersect with preservation, and getting a behind-the-scenes look of how a museum is operated, how a research library and archives operates. And these students were selected for the UNESCO Transatlantic Slave Trade Project that took a group of students to Denmark end of March, early April. And so now they've come back and they've been working for weeks now on researching this exhibit, and they're totally rethinking the exhibit that we had up. So if you've gone to the slave quarters and you've spent time looking at that exhibit that outlines the slave trade and St. Croix, how St. Croix was impacted by it, get ready for a whole new experience. They've become very creative. There's some interactive elements in it. And most importantly, it's all driven by students under the guidance of Mr. Dwayne Howell, Dr. Lauren Larson, Ms. O'Reilly, who's one of the teachers, and there's another teacher as well from the public schools that are involved in this. So we're really excited. It's the first time that we've had an exhibit totally done by young people.
So how soon can the public be expecting to see that?
That exhibit will open on July 17th, which is the beginning of Come Home to St. Croix. Come Home to St. Croix runs from Sunday to Sunday, July 17th to the 24th. And I always tell people, at Landmarks, we wanted to do a week-long activity. We didn't think 7 days was long enough, so we created time. So our week is 8 days long.
Right. Yes,
yes. So can you run down a little bit day by day what's going to happen?
I can if you can stand to hear all of it.
Well, just a quick 2 cents. What's happening per day.
You want me to start with the first one?
Sure.
Okay. So July 17th is our opening day, and we always start, as we think all activities should start, by honoring our ancestors. So it's the ceremony to honor our ancestors. We pour a traditional African libation. And we do it not just with one person pouring the libation, but everyone is invited to participate. So we ask people to think about an ancestor that they want to remember on that day and to come up, pour a libation, and name that ancestor so that we recognize all of those people who went before us. And then the person pouring the libation, who this year is Dr. Kofi Boateng, also concludes by adding anybody who wasn't named, doing a general kind of libation. He explains what a libation is, why we do it, the difference between the veneration of ancestors and the worship of idols or anything else. And so everyone gets to participate, and we call them forward to support us in what we're doing and also to recognize them for the sacrifices that they made. Then the exhibits open after that, and the students who've been participating, our junior preservationists, will speak about their exhibit and their ideas behind creating this exhibit. And then we'll have refreshments. We have a reception, so we'll have complimentary refreshments for all the participants. And then we move in at 5 o'clock?
Yeah, 5.
5 o'clock. 5:30 we move into our poetry and music evening. The libation and the tribute to ancestors is done outside, so that we don't have a limit to how many people can participate, and so we're under the trees, and just really the right setting for it. The poetry and music night has normally been held in the Great House because it too has a special ambience, and we do it by candlelight. Unless that grows really, really large and we run out of space in the Great House, and we might have to move it outside. But we intend for it to be indoors. Mrs. Oyoko, Winifred Oyoko Loving, has again kindly joined our committee, and she's coordinating this. So she's inviting poets to be involved, and then we also have an open mic. So we expect everyone from Mr. Eugene Genix Thomas, who has delighted us before with his poetry, some of Oyoko's poetry, and other people that she's invited, and anyone else who wants to come out. If you write poetry, if you write lyrics, if there's something that you want to say that helps us to really bring people together and to celebrate our history and our culture and our family connections, we invite you to be a part of that.
Okay.
So that Sunday, it starts at 2 p.m. We start, and then, as I said, the poetry evening starts at 5.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Tevin Williams Jr. will also be playing for Poetry and Music Night. I forgot to mention that elsewhere. But yeah, if you're looking to see him play, you'll be able to see him that night on the 17th.
Okay.
And I must say, we're really proud of Kevin. I think he was born with a lot of talent. He has very dedicated parents and a family circle that have really helped to develop him. But we always like to be thankful that he also spent a few years as a camper at Discover St. Croix with the Landmark Society. So he's very familiar with our space, and we're very familiar with him, and really proud of him and what he's doing.
Okay. And so I guess on the 18th you have the getting started with your family history.
Yeah, and that's so whereas the Thompson family exhibit is just like an introduction, displaying, showcasing what you can do with your family history, the workshop is actually going to show you how you can execute, getting started with research. And then I think they might get into a little bit of how to put together an exhibit, but it's going to be mostly about research.
Okay.
That starts at 5:45 p.m. on the 18th, as you said. That will be at Estate Wing Museum. Ms. Dow will be putting that together. She'll have a presentation, and we're also going to have like Wi-Fi set up, so everyone who's participating, they can actually get on Ancestry.com, because we use Ancestry.com a lot for research.
Okay.
So they'll be able to get on, and it'll be interactive, and we're encouraging everyone to bring their laptops so that they can participate with us.
Okay.
And the cool thing about the workshops to me is that we get to tell people about the resources that we have that people really don't know about. Ms. Dow could tell you more about this. I'm not really a genealogy person, but St. Croix is unique in that it has records that you wouldn't find anywhere else. Like vital statistics records, detailed history, detailed records of people that you wouldn't find in many places in the United States. Ms. Dow could tell you more about it. Yeah.
And these are records going back to the 1700s.
Yeah.
And that's what's amazing. The Danish monarchy and the Danish government, the Danish West India Company, were meticulous in their record keeping. They were really good at following their money. Remember that when people were enslaved, they were treated as property.
Right.
And so the people who held others as slaves had to pay taxes on this property that they had. And in order to make sure that the government was receiving a true valuation of that property, they instituted all kinds of things. So churches were required to baptize everyone and to report the records of baptism. Once a quarter, they had to submit. All of the churches had to submit their records to the government.
Okay.
So that's a check and balance to see if the property owners are actually reporting accurately births and deaths. So the baptisms, births, deaths, the marriages, in churches where there's a confirmation or reception, all of those records were created for people who were enslaved. And that is so unusual because in the States, in the United States and other parts of the world, you're lucky if you can find a number, 10 men, 15 women. But to have actually records for people by name, their first name listed, in many cases a surname, certainly after emancipation, you start to see more surnames. And after emancipation, you also start to see in the records that people are listed in households.
Okay.
So whereas before you had all the men listed, all the women, and then all the boys and all the children, after emancipation, people are listed with households. So when you find that ancestor you're looking for, in all likelihood, they're either living with a parent, a sibling, or a child or a spouse.
Okay.
And you can actually see that. So that makes it really different to do genealogy in the Virgin Islands, and particularly St. Croix, because there's this amount of information that's available.
So how are you guys keeping all these records?
We have both electronic and
Okay.
paper records.
Okay.
And I have to say this, you know, we are becoming more modernized and more tech savvy as a people all over the world, but paper is always good. The thing with technology is that you always have to be prepared to move your information to the next medium that's created. So if you think of floppy disks, if we had kept all this information only on floppy disks, we now would not have a machine that we could put that floppy disk
It's gone,
into.
yes.
So paper, we have scanned documents, we have, some of it is on diskettes or now on CDs. There's also a database that was put together by the Virgin Islands Social History Associates that contains many of the records that the Landmark Society has, as well as other records that George Tyson and Sven Holso and others got in Denmark and in the States. And that database, the Visha database, is an amazing tool because you can put in someone's name and every record that they appear in that's in that database will show up.
Okay.
So whether it's the person's own baptism or when they're baptizing their own child, or they're serving as a sponsor, as a godparent for somebody else's child, same thing with their marriage, death, anywhere where their name is mentioned will come up when you go to the database. And you can see the details of that information, but it also tells you where they got the information from so that then you can go to a hard copy of the
Okay.
record
Okay.
and actually see that. So that makes research very different. It gives us a gold mine of information that we can find. It doesn't alleviate some of the emotions that come naturally with this, because even as we all know that we have been, our ancestors were enslaved at some point, for many of us, it's very different the first time that you see that person's name in a record and see a notation that they're enslaved.
Okay.
It hits you.
It hits you,
Even
okay.
though you know it in your head, you know it intellectually, but when you take that in, there are records that show, there are purchase records, there's sales records, there are mortgages. And if you want to know more about that, come to the workshop, because I'll be telling you a whole lot about that. But there are all these kinds of records. There are manumission records for when people are freed. And you can see whether people are buying their own freedom, whether it's being given to them, under what circumstances, if someone else is involved in their gaining their freedom. There are cemetery records. There's just an amazing collection of the records that the government kept, the records that individual churches kept, and those records are very similar to what was submitted to the government, but sometimes they have additional information.
Okay.
And so we have this ongoing records copying project where we help churches to preserve the records that they have, and also provide them with copies so that they can continue to use copies to provide information rather than using their original manuscripts, which can deteriorate.
Okay.
So there are all kinds of records available, and we're going to be excited about. This is the first time that we're going to have this network, which will allow you to plug into a network where you can use your own computer or one of the few computers that we have, but they'll actually be hands-on. So we're not just telling you how to do it. We're going to be able to show you Ancestry, as Naima said, and then other records that are online that you can access as well.
Okay. So moving on here, we have, I guess this is on Herbert Harrison.
Yes, Hubert Harrison.
Hubert Harrison, I'm sorry.
And I'm going to turn to Naima and Hubert Harrison.
Yeah.
And just tell you, for both that night and the previous night, anytime that we have an evening activity, there's food available for sale.
Okay.
Sometimes it's light, like pâtés or something really light like that, tarts, always soft drinks available, local drinks, because we don't want people to not come because they need to go home and cook or need to stop and eat or whatever.
Yeah.
And for all of our activities, children are welcome.
Okay.
So we want people to feel that they can bring children along. So,
Okay.
Naima, Hubert Harrison.
So Hubert Harrison was born in, I believe, 1880, just at the turn of the century. He was born in Estate Concordia East. he lived on St. Croix until he was about 17 years old, and then he moved to, I believe it was New York. Yeah, it was New York. So he didn't receive very much formal schooling, but he was super bright. There was a newspaper in the New York Times, or one New York newspaper that said like Caribbean genius found. He was really, really smart, but you wouldn't know about him because he was very little known because he was black, he was from the Caribbean, and he was poor. So, even though he was this influential person, he was known as the father of Harlem radicalism. He was considered at one point more radical than Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey was like too conservative for him.
Oh, really? Okay.
There's much written about him, but many people don't know. And I have to give special thanks to Dr. Jeffrey Perry because he's coming to present on Hubert Harrison. And Hubert Harrison is one of his, I don't know if I should say one of his life's works, but he's done tons and tons of work on Hubert Harrison. And every time I interact with him, he's just like, I just want to get the word out. I just want to get the word out. So big up to him.
Okay.
He's coming on the Tuesday, like you said, in the evening. I can't remember the time. Yes, okay, so he's coming at 6 p.m. 6 to 8. We're being flexible with that time because his presentations tend to go on and then people tend to ask questions. So approximately 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., but we're starting at 6. There'll be food in the cookhouse, like Ms. Dow said. So he'll present, he'll talk, I guess he'll be talking more about his work in as a socialist and his work in New York. But he will be doing, since he'll be in St. Croix, I'm sure he'll do a little bit about his early life on St. Croix. And then we're also doing, he just shipped the books today. Supposedly they're coming next week Tuesday. He has written some books on Hubert Harrison. We'll be doing a book signing that Tuesday evening. We've got copies of 3 of his books. The first one is Hubert Harrison, The Voice of Harlem Radicalism. And then we have a Hubert Harrison Reader. I think that's just a collection of Hubert Harrison's writings.
Okay.
And then I think this is the newest one he has, When Africa Awakes, the inside story of the stirrings and strivings of the new Negro in the Western world. So those are all books written by Dr. Perry. We'll be selling them in our Estate Museum bookstore on that night, and then you can get your book signed by him at the end of his talk.
Okay.
So that's.
And Dr. Perry, I believe the first title that you mentioned is the first volume of his biography of Hubert Harrison.
Yeah.
And he's currently working on the second volume of that. So it's really exciting for us. Hubert Harrison in himself is important. The fact that he was a contemporary of Marcus Garvey, he edited a number of newspapers, he was writing and presenting all the time. He was very, very active, and as Naima said, he's the father of Harlem radicalism, and he comes from right here, from St. Croix. In May, we did a Places That Matter in Estate Concordia, where he was born. So we were there with George Tyson, who has done a lot of research on Estate Concordia and could tell us about Hubert Harrison and other people who came out of that, who went on to do really good things. Hubert Harrison was also a friend of D. Hamilton Jackson, so as well as a contemporary of Marcus Garvey. So the Virgin Islands has been making its mark on the U.S. and the world for a very long time. Virgin Islanders have been, and as we approach the centennial, the Virgin Islands centennial, it's even more important for us to tell our story and to tell of the significant contributions that Virgin Islanders have made. So we're really excited to have Dr. Perry here. And he is so eager to share information. We thought we were, but I think he at least matches up. So one of the things that he's doing, in addition to the evening presentation that he's going to do at Estate Wind Museum, is he is going to Golden Grove, to the correctional facility. And he's going to be doing a presentation to inmates and staff there, because we all need to know. We all need to know. And if we're going to help people who are incarcerated, as well as those of us out there, to really have a a strong sense of who we are, of
Yes.
self, and to understand what role we can play in our community and what responsibility we have, then we owe it always to take whatever programs that we can into Golden Grove so that they can learn about that. So it's a good opportunity for them and for us.
And so you have places that matter at Mount Eagle?
The places that matter to Mount Eagle, we've had to change. Unless something happens to allow us the guide that we intended to have, because it was really important. Mount Eagle is important because it's the highest point on St. Croix, but also because of the habitat there, the flora and the fauna that's there, and it's really important to go with a good guide.
Okay.
So if we're able to do that, we will. If not, we're going to repeat it later in the year. We did it with our staff earlier this year. We did it as part of our professional development.
Okay.
And I really have to stop here and big up our team. I mean, we are a very small team at St. Croix Landmark Society. You wouldn't believe how incredibly small we are, and yet how much we managed to do in terms of preservation. And when we did that hike on Mount Eagle, we had a staff member who is 70 years old, Miss Margaret Reynolds, and she made the trek, and she made it all the way up to the top of Mount Eagle. So it was exciting. We had from 20-somethings to 70 on this trip.
Okay.
So I want to hail up all of the people at St. Croix Landmark Society, the paid staff, as well as the core volunteers who are there with us all the time, making this program and everything else that we do happen. There's always room for volunteers. No matter what your area of interest is or your availability, we have something that you can do and enjoy doing at the Landmark Society. So we want to invite you to come out.
And so this was on here, I guess, originally because this was, it says here that this was a hiding place.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. It's one of the hiding places. There are a number of places on St. Croix where we have evidence that Maroons used as hiding places, people who were enslaved and managed to escape enslavement. And Mount Eagle is one of those places. So it's really one of the places that matter on St. Croix. And we want to make sure that when we do that, we have the right guide. I mean, we could walk you up there, those of us who've been there, because we've done that. But it's good to have that depth of knowledge. It's really part exercise, part hike, part spiritual experience, part history lesson.
Yeah, okay.
It's a big experience. So we promise that if it doesn't happen, if we're not able to make it happen during Come Home, we will do it very soon. So it'll be open to the public.
And so you have here an evening in the big yard.
Right. So Naima is very modest, but last year Naima Laguerre, along with Essence Carter and Malik Zapeta, our 3 interns, put together an amazing exhibit. So I said this year we have an exhibit by teenagers. That was our first exhibit by early 20-somethings. And they researched and designed and created a long row exhibit at WIM Museum, which forms part of the big yard. The big yard being the shared space that you had in a property where there was more than one residence. And sometimes those residences were really small. A long row might have been 20-something feet long, I forget, 40-something feet long?
12 feet by,
12 by 40-something feet, but then it was divided into 2 or more spaces, sometimes 3 spaces. So if you think about that, if you do the math, the inside of a long row was a really small space that an entire family lived in. Or as one of our staff says, they didn't live there, they slept there, but they lived outside. Because they lived in the yard, they cooked in the yard, they interacted, they washed in the yard, everything else. So it was this communal space, it was a village. And you might have found this on a plantation, or even in town as properties evolved and people were able to, free people were able to access property in town. They tended to live in these communal situations where there was this shared space. The exhibit is in part a facade of a long row, but it's so well done that last year people were like, oh, I can't wait to get inside. The doorways are so well done, you know. So we're going, and then so we have the big yard, which is where our tradition bearers on ordinary days, every day that the museum is open, are there demonstrating and talking about our cultural traditions in music, in fiber arts, in cooking, you know, in all of those traditions, instrument making. And so we're going to use that yard again to talk about what life was like in a long row, and in that yard, whether it was called the big yard or it was called, called after the family that occupied the yard.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk about that. We're hoping to have someone there who's going to parch peanuts, maybe even demonstrating on a coal pot. And we're calling out, if you're out there and you can help us make this all come alive. There'll be food for sale, but it's a gathering place. And there'll be games that we can play and things that we can do and talk about this life, which is so much a part of how a lot of us grew up, even as our families might have moved out of yards or shared spaces. We still tended to have that closeness where we were interacting closely with family and friends on a regular basis. And that's part of the culture that we don't want to lose.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that wherever that is slowing down, that we tighten that up and encourage that, because that's what helped all of us to become who we are, with those influences from all of those people in the yard, some of whom were related to us and some weren't, but that connection.
What's an example of here on St. Croix that you would consider to be like a yard?
You remember Brady's restaurant?
Yes.
Okay. If you think of Brady's is right on the street, and that was actually a long row. Where Brady's was a long row.
You're talking about where it used to be or where it is now?
Where the building is now, the restaurant has closed, but where that restaurant, the concrete building was put up, that was a long row that I believe was wooden. I'm not positive of that one. I can't remember clearly. But I knew Miss Nettie Larson used to live there. Miss Antonetta Larson lived there and raised her children there. And then later on, some grandchildren lived with her. Don't remember the names of all the other people who lived in that long row when I was growing up. But they lived in that long row. Then behind Brady's, in the yard behind Brady's, there's another long row. They're the remnants of it needs some work, but there's a wooden long row at the back of that property. So that was a space that was shared by several families. There was another one, the building is no longer there, but there was another one, that's on Queen Street in Christiansted. As you went west on Queen Street and you passed what used to be Alejo's bar and shop, which is now where Jervia Larson, Alejo's grandson, has his architectural studio. You went into the next block, the third property on the next block was actually called Big Yard. It belonged to Philpott and Franzel Williams' father, Josias Williams, and a number of families grew up in that yard. It was really called Big Yard because it was a big yard, and there were so many people living there. There are a number of these long rows you'll see also all over St. Croix, except mostly now they've been converted a little bit so you don't see 3 or 4 doorways. You usually see one doorway, but you can still see sometimes the mark of where the other doorway was. The artist Levon Bell, in the last few years, restored a property on East Street that has 2 long rows. She's already completed the restoration of one and has her art studio in that, and then she's working on the one in front. So they're all over, and once you start looking at long rows and big yards, that every place that you're driving, you see them. Because it happened to me as they were working on this exhibit, and we would go look at one to see, get some idea for the exhibit. And then I realized now I see them in Frederickstead. There's one on the back street, which I think is Hospital Street.
So these are just mainly in town,
but you also see them. You see them. They're next to the Wim Museum. They're the ruins of the slave quarters for Wim. And it's a long row. It's a long row with 4 entrances into it. So on the estates, you had them. Sometimes they were called villages, the slave village. But there's that same sense of you have little spaces inside the building shared by different families, and then they're all sharing the yard as well. So you have them in town and in the country. But you definitely, most of the ones that are standing, I guess, are in town. You see them where Hubert Harrison was born, in Concordia, and this is the Concordia near Salt River, that Concordia East. And there, that's probably one of the few, there are a few others, but that's one of the few places where the long rows are still inhabited. When Dr. Moore bought that property, I believe in the 1940s, he actually enlarged some of the long rows, so the
Oh.
interior spaces are bigger. But he continued to rent them to people who work to him, and now his daughter continues to rent them. So he improved the space,
Okay.
and those have been continually. So if you turn from North Shore Road, turn as if you were going to Salt River, and then make that first left,
yeah.
which takes you to Frangipani. But right there where you make a left,
Yeah.
the long rows are on either side of the road.
Okay,
And the other ruins for Estate Concordia are there. So this is a situation that people still live in.
Yeah.
There's one in Grove Place. There's a yard where there are a lot of families that live and they have the long rows and they're over. So tell us about your long road. Tell us about your experience. Tell us about someone you used to visit or that you still visit in a long row or in a yard. This is a chance for all of us to talk about it and what that experience meant to all of us.
Okay, sounds good.
So that's Thursday evening, July 21st.
21st.
At Wynn Museum, starting at 5:45?
No,
A little earlier, 5:30?
a little earlier.
Yeah,
I
probably
think-
about 5:30.
Yeah.
Because we want it to be light enough for you to see the exhibit well, and for nobody to have an excuse. There's a lady named Miss Christian. I can't remember her first name. She lives in Siam Farm, and I know last year she wanted to come and she didn't get to come. So Miss Christian, if you're listening, give us a call. We're gonna make sure you get a ride down because we don't want you to miss this one.
Is that my mother?
I don't know. She lives in Siam Farm.
My mother lives in Siam Farm.
So we have to talk
I
and see if
gotta
that's
find
her.
out.
Yeah. Because she wanted to come, and then at the last minute she couldn't get a ride down. So we want to make sure that she gets there. And if it's not your mother, we still want her to come too.
Okay. I'll find out about that. Yeah, but on the agenda here it says 5:30 to 7:30.
Okay.
Right. So we'll be
that's
there.
definitely before sundown.
Yes, definitely.
And then on the last day here, which is the 23rd, actually the 22nd and the 23rd, you have the quadrille.
We got three
Under
more.
the-
We got 3 more days. Remember, our week has 8 days in
yeah.
it. So on the
Quadrille under the-
22nd,
Quadrille
that's
under the stars.
Yeah, Grand Crucian Quadrille Under the Stars. We've done this from the first year. It's part of our world music series because when you're looking at the music of the world, you need to first look at your own music. And Quelbe is our music, Quadrille is our dance. So Stanley and the 10 Sleepless Nights will be out there as they've been every year. We've also invited all of the quadrille dance groups, II dancers, St. Croix Heritage dancers, Widaya, anybody, and we'd love you to come out. If you want to wear a madras, that would be great, but we'd love to have you come as a group to be part of this public dance. This isn't a demonstration time. This isn't to use for anybody to sit back and watch a performance. This is for you to be a part of it.
Okay.
So we start at 6 p.m. with Quadrille 101. No, none of us can have an excuse that we don't know how to dance quadrille because we're going to teach you how to dance quadrille. And then the band strikes up for the dance, and then we
Okay.
start. And I have to tell you, last year we had a neighbor. I'm not going to call her name because I'm going to say an age, and I don't know if she wants me to put that out there. She is in her 80s, pretty close to 90, and she was on that floor all night long, dancing. So there is no excuse for anybody. Come out to really enjoy quadrille under the stars. It's hot in the summer. It's nice to be outdoors. But because we know that sometimes God likes to send some of the rain that we need, we have a tent. So even if it's pouring rain at your house, rain does not stop a quadrille at Estate Wynn Museum. So just come on out. We'll be out there. We'll have a covered space that you can dance in thanks to the Department of Agriculture. And the band will be under that covered space, so there'll be no reason not to have a quadrille. So that's Friday, the 22nd of July.
Yep. And then on the Saturday, the 23rd, Virgin Islands Cultural Expose and Extravaganza.
Right. Naima spoke a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's
Want to remind them?
Yeah,
Tickets?
that's the event being put on by really by Stanley and the 10 Sleepless Nights, Dr. Eugene Peterson and Island Center, but St. Croix Landmark Society is collaborating to make it available to the public. That's July 23rd. Starts at 6:30 p.m. It will go until, at the latest, 9:30.
9:30, yes.
And that will be all the performers, Rising Stars, Kevin Williams Jr., Tony Romano, Stadell Peterson, Blackness Crease is the one I forgot to mention.
Yes.
Mokojumbis, some quadrille dance groups. And then we have ticket outlets where Estate Wim Museum is one ticket outlet. Urban Threads is a ticket outlet. And the tickets, by the way, are $15. I can't remember if I mentioned that before. $15 each. Estate Wim Museum, Urban Threads, Cafe de la Creme, Armstrong's Homemade Ice Cream, and Echo Valley Imports and Tire Service. So we try to get as far across the island as possible.
No, north, south, east, and west.
Yeah.
And we'd love for you to buy your tickets ahead of time, but
Yeah.
we'll have tickets at the door. But we really would love for you to buy your tickets ahead of time. And for all of the programs that we've talked about, you can RSVP to us on our Facebook page.
Yeah. I forgot
you
to
can
mention that.
RSVP by calling our office or emailing us. Because when we have an idea of how many people are coming, it's easier to make sure that we've got food and everything ready, enough chairs and everything. Gives us a sense. You know, if we're going to have 200 people show up for an event, we don't want 100 of them to have to wait while we get more chairs or anything else. So, and we do want to have large crowds at all the events. The program that's happening on that Saturday night, the Cultural Extravaganza, this is the group that's also going to travel in August to Denmark to present the Virgin Islands Cultural Extravaganza.
Okay.
They, I think, have also been invited to perform in Puerto Rico during the summer. So I want to say it's Loisa Aldea, but I'm not positive of that. But they are going to be performing. So this is us putting on a show about us. And so whether you have children that you want to come and learn more about this, whether you yourself want to be a part of celebrating this, you have visitors come in, you have Crucians coming back home to visit, you know, anybody, we want them out there. We want them to come. So hotels, you know, tell your guests about it. Taxi drivers, tell your guests. Come Home to St. Croix is just this week for us to celebrate everything about us and who we are. So that Saturday night is great. We're thankful to Doc Peterson because he already had the program put together. So we didn't have to do that. And it gave us also an activity offsite. Gave our hardworking staff and volunteers a little bit of a break. We're still going to work there at Island Center, but we don't have to do any setup at WIM Museum that night as we've done before when we've had another concert. So Doc came through with a really good idea for us, and we really appreciate that from him.
Okay, and then the last night is Old Time Family Day.
Yeah. Old Time Family Day. That's Sunday the 24th. Starts at noon. And goes until 5, and surely you'll be around as we're packing up and everything, but you know, we keep the music going. But Old Time Family Day is exactly that. It's what I knew as a child, where whether we got together at Kramer's Park or at somebody's house, the whole family was there, and children were free to run in the big yard and in the small yard. They were free to run and play because the adults were there. So we create that same setting. There's a children's tent where children can learn about old-time games. They can look at how some of the old-time toys were made. They can learn to play wari, play marbles, play jacks, play cards, play jump rope. They can do any of those things. You know, it really, I really want to give a big up to someone who left us a little too soon, but his name just left me, Blues. Blues, and many people know him from Gallows Bay, came to us the first time we were having an Old Time Family Day, and he said, can I come and do games? And he would show up every year with the jump ropes and all the games and stories to tell children and everything, and he always came.
You talking about the musician Blues?
Yeah.
Okay, I know who exactly who you're talking about.
And you know, it was just such a gift that he gave us, and he had this endless source of energy, and he would come out with Blues Porter, and I'm trying to think of his first name, might be Neville. Not positive of that, but everyone knew him as Blues. And so every time we have Old Time Family Day, I have to think about him, because he would come out and make sure that we had that fun.
Yes.
And so that's what we're doing again. Hopefully we're going to have some Rotarians involved with us as they've been in the past. And we're going to do demonstrations of food, how to prepare red grout and some other dishes. I believe I'm not sure if we're doing mafe that day or one day during the week, but as part of our live-in museum at WIM Museum, when our tradition bearers are there. And on Sunday, we have some guest tradition bearers, people who are not always at the museum, but also are the best at preparing one of our foods. And just, you know, because we can't let this generation go without knowing how to cook. Crujan food.
Yes.
And so we want to always be able to demonstrate it. And then if you just want to hang out and listen to the music, whether it's the DJ early on or Dimitri Coatman and the Renaissance Band, you know, that's going to be there. There's going to be quadrille. We're going to do a quadrille 101 at the end of the day, as well towards the end of the day. They are cultural dancers, so we're excited. It's a way of closing out that weekend. So we start out by honoring ancestors. We close out with remembering family and being together as a family and just sharing an afternoon with each other. You know, and none of this would have happened this year if it wasn't for this young lady, Naima Laguerre. I'm so proud of her and what she has done in these last 3 years that she's been interning with the Landmark Society on 3 different occasions.
Yeah.
And she's concerned about all the details and making sure everything is perfect. So if you want to relieve Naima's stress, call her tomorrow and tell her that you want to volunteer. 772-0598. Yeah. Send us an email, nlaguerre at stcroixlandmarks.org or office at stcroixlandmarks.org. Call us, like us on Facebook, go to our website, stcroixlandmarks.org. Any of those ways that you can to connect with us. We would be so happy to have you as part of Come Home to St. Croix or any of the activities that we're doing on an ongoing basis.
Okay.
And David, if you have a moment, I'd like to tell you about a couple more things we're doing this summer.
Sure.
Just really quick. Discover St. Croix is our program that really has 2 parts to it. We have members, children ages 6 to 12, who participate on in the weekly programs. And we've added some amazing things this year. They're doing drumming classes 3 days a week for 5 weeks. It started this week, June 27th, and it goes through July 30th. Which is the day of our closing program. They're doing drumming, they're doing joinery, arts and crafts, they're going to places that matter, they're doing field trips, they're doing Virgin Islands history and culture. And I want to thank the Department of Education for the support that they've given to the program this year. We assisted them with photographs for the social studies workbooks that they have created for kindergarten through 2nd grade. Now we're working on 3rd grade, and we're using elements from those workbooks to test those workbooks and have these students participate. So whether these are students that are in school in the Virgin Islands or are visiting from away, we're having a great time. Ms. Colleen Clark is running the weekly program, and she has been amazing in what she's done. She's got volunteers. The other part of the program is our culture and history workshops, where camps that exist outside of Landmark Society can book to come and do activities. So our program is like a laboratory. It's where we're experimenting with programs where our members get to try out programs first, and we work out, you know, we find out what their reaction is to the program, how they'd like to see it improve, and then we offer those programs to other camps. So you can call the same number, 772-0598, to sign up for one of those activities. We'll be doing that throughout July, mostly on Wednesdays and Fridays, when our group is away. So that's something that's really going on. And then the third thing is our junior preservationists. I mentioned to you that some of them were part of the UNESCO group that went to Denmark earlier. But we have this magnet at Landmark Society at Wynn Museum that draws teenagers to us in the summer. Okay. We have yet to advertise our junior preservationist program. They just show up. Okay. They just show up and say, can I volunteer? You know, can I be here? So we have several students, Chenille Hendricks, Michael Dow Jr., my son, Jason Saldano, not remembering all of the names of the department. Rukia Andrews is there. I'm sorry, how could I forget Rukia, who is majoring in anthropology and museum studies. She's a little bit older than the other students, so she's interning with us also and helping with the Thompson exhibit and helping with some projects in our library. But we've got, without trying, the Department of Tourism has brought some of their interns. So these junior preservationists are really getting hands-on experience. And we hope that out of this program will come students like Rukia who will choose to major in a field that has a career connected to preservation. Okay. Because sooner or later, those of us who have gotten gray are going to retire, and we need to make sure that we're preparing the next group of historians and
That's
architects and preservationists and librarians and other fields that are going to take that on.
Okay.
So we got our hands are full this summer,
It
having a great time.
It sounds like it.
Yeah,
It sounds like it.
the tradition bearers, to anybody out there, Stanley Jacobs, thank God, has agreed to come out and teach the children how to work with a plant that in Christiansted we call cash. In Fredericksted it's called carreta, and the botanical name is sansevieria. It's also known by some people as mother-in-law tongue, and this is a plant that was traditionally used to weave mats and slippers. And Stanley Jacobs is coming out to help the students learn that. So over the next few weeks, they're going to be learning that. Just trying to make sure that our traditions don't die.
Okay.
That whoever knows them. So if there's something that we're not doing that you would like to introduce, anything that you'd like to contribute to this, please contact us at 772-0598. And just remember, there's always room for another volunteer at Landmark Society, another person who wants to share a tradition. We'd love to have you. So we're excited.
All right.
See you at Come Home to St. Croix, Naima's show.
Yeah.
So excited about it.
So our guests tonight are the St. Croix Landmark Society. Their program is called Come Home to St. Croix. I want to thank you guys for coming out. This sounds like this is going to be 8 days of fun, history, unity, families coming together and just learning about other families, learning about the history of St. Croix. Sounds like there's a lot. I want to thank you guys for coming out. So the event is from July 17th through
July 24th.
July 24th?
Yes.
Sunday to Sunday.
Sunday to Sunday, and is something interesting every day to go to learn, to understand during that week. Much success to you guys on that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us, and thank you to your listening audience and your viewing audience.
All right, thank you. All right, so on that note, Soup, any final words?
Ladies, thank you much. You seem like you're going to be real busy, and continue doing what you're doing for the community. Rastafari live, one perfect love.
Yeah, and I want to say thank you as well. It sounds like, as I said earlier, it's going to be a great experience, some good stuff to learn and understand, and all about St. Croix. And for us, one perfect love is our prayers and His blessings. When you put it all together, you get one perfect love. So on that note, we're off until next week, Tuesday. We have more shows lined up, more fun stuff, more fun people coming in the studio to share what they're doing here, there, and everywhere around the community. So on that note, we're out. Have a good weekend, everybody. It's 4th of July weekend, so whatever you do.
4th of July, be safe.
Be safe.
Be safe.
Enjoy the fireworks.
This is July 3rd weekend.
July 3rd
Emancipation weekend.
That's right.
Followed by July 4th, Independence Day.
Perfectly said. All right. So on that note, be safe. We're out. Peace.